I
Because
do have a question.
Sure.
So in terms of like your moral code, what like in terms of right and wrong,
Hmm.
um how do you come to what you feel is right and wrong or what you know is right and wrong? Like where does that base stem from, if that makes sense?
I hear you.
yeah,
So it comes first off from the people in my life, the people who didn't live the best life, learning, knowing to avoid what they did, but also the people who have been angels in my life, like my stepfather who came in and took care of my mom when my parents divorced when I was little, and he's been the light of my mom's life, and he cooks for her, he serves her endlessly. He may get grumpy and complain sometimes, but like he's built her gardens. He's the man I want to walk as. And if I would say Jesus is embodying someone in today's life, it would be my stepfather. Um, and then of course, the story of Jesus too. And it's crazy because like I just finished reading a book called Resurrecting Jesus, and it's from a Buddhist monk's uh, uh, well, he's not Buddhist anymore, but he's a meditator, and he he I guess tells the story of Jesus through the eyes of someone who would be defined as a Buddhist, I guess, because of the way
okay,
they interpret Jesus' story. Like I said earlier, as a story of a man who helped a lot of people by looking into himself and helping other people look into themselves, and know that there's even peace even amongst like that guy named Legion, uh, and where he had like a bunch of, like he said, there's a bunch of demons or a bunch of thoughts that he can't separate from himself, and Jesus helped him find peace within himself within that. And I think that's the dilemma of a lot of almost everyone in today's age. There's so many perspectives we're learning, so many we're exposed to. It's hard to really get a grip on what one would want to define their life to be, and it's hard to decide what kind of life you want to live, when there's that plus the distraction of entertainment and convenience, uh all of
always.
that's yeah, man. And I feel bad for everyone, but it's the world we live in. And even then, though, back then, I'm sure, even though they didn't have technology, I'm sure it was just as fearful to decide to live one's life, because they're as we have everything, they had barely nothing, right? Like it was all sticks and stones for the most part. So like Jesus was that example of someone who embodied a fully lived life. And um if people can emulate that, like not exactly, like movement for movement how he lived his life, but the messages, and the enlightenment that you can see in that, how he found for himself and for others, we can all be that for each other too, in
Exactly. Like
community.
that, like you're saying that's transferable. Like that doesn't have to be limited to just like religion, but that part is kind of transferable into other aspects.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay. So David, did
And
that answer the question a little bit? Because I do kind of want to add on that too.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, no, it answered it in terms like for me, like I want to know like where someone's ethics come from, which of course the people around are going to be the ethics. But what if you grew up in a, say Mayan culture or somewhere they sacrifice people regularly, or you know, like the ethics are like we're totally different in different cultures. Like, what is your base for like right and wrong, if that makes sense? Because right and wrong can differ from where people grow up in terms of their ethics.
Mm-hmm.
There are people in the world that are, cannibals, and it's okay where they're at. It's people um that want to kill people, so they might be spiritual in some ways, but they believe they should be able to do whatever they want to, and their urge just happens to be to kill someone. Who's to say like that's wrong? like so for me it's like, what are, like, is there a box for your ethics, or is it like whatever you choose to like I don't, that's more like what my question is.
Well,
I
I'll say
hear you.
like real quick, I want to add on to that too, because I do think some aspects of ethics and morality they are inherent to just human nature in general, in my opinion. Like during my classes, my engineering classes, we took a engineering ethics class, and like one of the exams that we had to take was to kill a fat man, and it was basically a railroad. What was it? You had two different options for a railroad, but you had to choose one or the other. You're in the train on the left side. There's one fat man, and that was the way they put it. I don't know why he had to be fat. And then the other one had like 7 or 10 children, if I remember it correctly. This was over a decade ago. So from the ethical standpoint, and this was no prior teachings, this were just students taking a course from all different walks of life. Had to choose to kill the one adult person or to kill several children. And with that, they would have follow-up questions to really guide and help you understand your ethical and moral beliefs. And so for me, I personally chose, because I remember this part, I chose the fat man. And they were just like, why would you choose him over the other ones? Like, there's no right answer. There's no right or wrong answer. But it's more so to help you question your own moral standpoints. And for me, my interpretation was, it's an adult. It's only one adult versus several children who has lived and experienced life for a longer period of time versus several smaller individuals who are, just getting to experience life. I don't remember what the follow up to that was. Like, it's a whole series of questions you can find online if you Google it, to kill a fat man. I might put in the description for the viewers to participate in. But I do think there's certain aspects of the human spirit itself that kind of determines what's right and what's wrong, and then what's being introduced to us as we grow that's built upon it. In my interpretation of it, like I think there's an aspect of what is it, interaction and environment, because there's I forgot the name of the theory for it. It's like nature versus nurture. So things like that, where our day-to-day interactions also shapes our morality, not just what we choose to participate in, but some things that just kind of change on a day-to-day basis. You know?
Well, my question is more like, what if the day-to-day interactions was, like the Spartans, like it was whole Roman societies where their ethics were crazy because they all taught each other like that. And we look back at it now, we'd be like, yeah, that's probably wrong to be like that. But that's us living in this society. So like that's more my question is like, I mean, you answered it, but it's just, for me, it's simple for me because I have a set of rules, etc. But like from the Bible. But for someone else, like I always like wonder, like, are you just like, okay, this feels good, but what if it feels good to someone else? Like, who are we to say no if that's the way you believe? What if for them, I feel like killing someone and that's the only thing that makes me feel sane? Like, what solid ground do you stand on to say, well, that's not good? Because to them, hurting people makes them feel good. So for me, like I struggle with that line of thinking, the authority to tell someone not to do whatever they want to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, Phil, did you want to chime in on that one too?
Yeah.
Or,
And dude, those are all valid questions, man. And that's, I feel, is the dilemma of every human, but unlike, whatchamacallit, hold on, let me regather my thoughts, because a lot of great things were just said, you too, Darius.
I have my moments. Thank you.
Like definitely, if I had been born with the Mayans during that time and I grew up with that, I 100%, I would be a part of them. I would do the same horrible shit that they did. Thank God. Thank you. I was not born then. I was born here, and for and I'll tell you what, I went through a lot of searching for that answer for myself, bro. And in the end, but besides, looking through whatever resources I could find through other people's my opinions, or books, or other resources, the number one thing that I could refer to was my my entire life I've lived so far, and being real with what I've been through, what I've done, what I've learned, what I didn't learn, um, and then of course, like determining what actions in the past were right or wrong. uh I guess for me, I can't explain it, man, because I feel like it all just came to me from the right things in life. Like life brought me those answers, and thankfully it's in a way that serves humanity, in my world at least. um and man, I feel it. I feel that the want for that answer, and that's the best I can give, I guess.
No, I feel you. It's a hard question, bro.
But I'm
David
doing
came
the
out here
best
with
I
the
can.
grill.
I don't want to kill anybody. I swear to God, don't want to kill nobody.
Well,
I
so
don't either.
I want to pivot to Nasia real quick too, because I think she would actually be able to chime in on this well. Because like, so Nasia, since you did say that you're recently like really, devoting yourself to Christianity and really expanding your knowledge, the practices, and really going forth with your discovery of Christianity, what was your
Mhm.
moral grounding prior? Like when you said that, you thought you were a Christian by your words, you were saying, and then now you consider yourself like a true Christian. Because kind of tying it back to David's question too, there had to be some sort of understanding, even though you weren't doing the full implementation and practices of Christianity, that still guided you to be the person you are with your own moral and ethics.
Yes. So I would say before I just tried to be a good person, the so-called good person, like
Mhm.
be nice to people, say the right things, don't hurt anybody, don't trip anyone, be as just as nice as you can possibly be. And that's the way I tried to live. I tried to live in that life. Just like, obviously, don't kill people, don't steal things, don't touch things that aren't yours. Try not to get angry, don't be upset, and all this other things that most people try to live by on a regular basis. I feel like most people have that baseline: don't kill, don't steal, don't destroy, don't lie, all that stuff kind of just embedded in their hearts. And that's where I was before. But I feel like moving forward and actually growing in Christianity, actually growing and knowing Jesus and having a relationship with Jesus, it's more of actually gaining that perspective of I live as I am directed by the Holy Spirit. I am lived as I am directed by the Bible. The Bible says to do certain things, and the Spirit within me is kind of led to go in that direction. It's not so much of a decision. It's not something I try to do. It's something I'm more pulled towards. As God leads me, as Jesus leads me, that's where I go. So it's less of me making the choice and more of God saying, do this, do this, do this.
Okay. Okay, I like that. So, because overall, so would you say like there's more of a connection with the spirit itself that is now kind of leading that way for guidance? So it's more
Yeah.
so of how can I call that? So it's more so of like an intuition that's being sent to you like from God, from Jesus, that's allowing
In
you to
a,
kind of. Mhm.
in a way, you can say that, yes. It's more of an indwelling. It's like God's Spirit. God's Spirit is indwelling inside of me. So I am being led by that Spirit. And the more I'm led by that, the more power that He has in me to then lead me. So it's just like it inches and grows and grows and grows in that perspective.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense then too. So, because like, so to throw in my little aspect of it too, to chime in on that question, because David, I know, back when I was still active within our church, like, we used to go to children's church all the time, and I believe I stopped going at around like a teenager, like late teenager, it might be early teenager, somewhere around that time. But like, even practices within religion that still shape me are Ten Commandments, seven deadly sins, and I think those are primarily like the foundation of like what I took away from it. But there was some sort of understanding that shaped my moral and ethics. And so my question, for you directly, would be, even though I stepped away from the church, relative to you still being involved with the church, I still feel like we still have like the same kind of moral foundations, right? Like, we know certain rights and wrongs. We do differ on some things, of course, but it's like, what would you say that moral background kind of, comes from for me? Because even though we have that same uprooting, there was that initial departure, and so now we're on still two different paths, yet we still have similar foundations. Because I would say that's inherent to my experiences and my beliefs, but where would you say that kind of comes from?
I would say your core of beliefs, in terms of your ethics, are
Mm-hmm.
Christian, at least the same values as Christian, but at the same time, I would say most of societies is, even if they don't admit it, you know. So, like because Christianity has like stated so much of what our values are, people are believing it even if they don't want to. So our core of what's right and wrong, for the most part, in my opinion, Christian. You know, you got some different things that you believe in. You know, for me, we always chop it up about it.
Oh, always.
Number one thing, like the number one defining factor in the Bible is like free will. You don't like you can't force nobody to be Christian. You know, he wants you to willingly choose. So if you're being forced, somebody's already out of pocket in some fashion, no matter what. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing is how can I be Christian and not respect the fact that you choose what you want to believe? That makes zero sense. I don't have to like it, you know, but I respect it 100%, and it don't change our relationship at all.
Nah, not at all. Yeah, because we both even talked about too. Is like it's kind of cool when we do have those differing views too. Because at the end of the day, it's like we've known each other since we were like, yay, hi. You were like a little bit taller, but yeah. But it's like to still see us as adults having still core foundations and then still being able to, discuss things that we disagree on. I think that's where, the human nature side of things kind of come into play. Because as you mentioned, like with free will as well, um, I think it's kind of like a paradox within religion because if you have a text that is guiding you, is that truly free will? Because wouldn't free will be more of a experiential kind of, here's what I experienced, this is what I've taken away from those kind of events in terms of how it shapes someone or builds that foundation. So I kind of feel like that's a little bit of a paradox because you still have the guidelines to kind of conform to and act within, but then on the other side, it's saying to act freely.
Well, I would say my opinion is the Bible says what you should do. It doesn't say, I mean, it tells you what you should do. It doesn't say um you have to do anything.
Yeah.
It's telling it's
It's like a may
what
versus a
to
must
do.
kind of thing.
Right. Now, you know, and the premise on the Bible is more to get into heaven, right? Like it's telling you how to get to heaven for the most part, a roadmap to how to get to heaven.
Mhm.
You know, and on the way to heaven, you're becoming a better person and becoming more like Jesus. That's more of the premise of the Bible. Not you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this just to be on earth. You got free will. And the Bible clearly states you got free will. It's
Right.
just telling you what you should do. You know, and it does tell you what you have to do to get to heaven, but not necessarily just to be a good person.
Okay. So I want to pivot that over to Phil as well, because like though you do lean more towards like the spiritual side of things, more towards like finding your own guidance and path. Like if because I'm not sure what your thoughts are on the afterlife. If you want, you can like chime in on that as well. But like, what kind of motivates you to continue down the path that you have? Because like for Christianity, for various religions, there is that aspect of the afterlife, the internal afterlife, um, the reckoning of what comes next after we pass away. But for those who are more spiritual, more atheists, sometimes even agnostic, there's not a guarantee of what comes next, or if there is an afterlife at all. So, what kind of continues to guide you down the path that you have followed down?
Because I'm still always a human, that I am always at a doorstep of, you know, uh, falling into actions that don't serve myself or the people that I love around me and humanity.
Mhm.
So I always, you know, I want to learn. It keeps me curious. Um, and as for uh, afterlife, I mean, uh, that's been one of the things I've ceased searching for, because I used to try to define it, because I was so at odds ends with the action, with my identity with religion when I was younger.
Mhm.
But now it's funny now to me, because uh, you know, I think heaven is can be lived here on earth while we are alive, and that's how, you know, and the way I can interpret it, either the story from Jesus or a lot of other perceptions that, you know, don't fall into malicious practices. But, you know, I see it as a step of instructions, you know, to live in harmony on earth, at peace on earth with love. Um, and so, as for what happens after, I don't know. Uh, you know, in my heart of hearts, for me to try to define it, to use a word to just to describe what it would be like to pass on, it I think is all coming from a human place still. Uh, and but you know, what's important is that the way we live our life, and you know, and even if it's to find a life in heaven after we die, then that's fine. You know, if the result is, you know, we be good to each other and live wholesomely, then I'm all for it. You know, so
Okay.
I mean, I would, you know, I would love to uh, find that dimension or place after I die, uh, but I could never make a stance on what happens.
Okay. So for you, it's more so of what actions you take, like while we're still living, like while still on Earth, kind of thing. That's what your
Like
primary focus and motivation is.
journey before destination, and of course, you know,
I like that.
even though I want like, so the way I can kind of as a visual is that, you know, the life and the man I want to be, who can provide, protect, uh, for whoever is in my life in that
Mhm.
time. Um, in order to get to that location and time and place and mentality and spirit, I have to have done every single step of work, even the failures, even and all that, uh, in order to reach that place, right? But you know, so every step. So as long as I'm taking and 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 taking every step and letting my life unfold, and doing the actions that I know I must do, I'm embodying that life already. So uh, for me right now, you know, life isn't perfect, but I feel like heaven is on earth for me right now. Um, if that makes sense.
It makes sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
Naja, David, did you either one of you chime in on that as well? It makes sense to me what Phil's saying.
Um, I'm like confused a little bit. I was gonna ask like, so like more concise, because like I got confused while you were talking. You're saying more the way you live your life is heaven for the most part, but you don't know about if you're going anywhere after here, or like I got like super confused
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
it
So
was a destination or not.
I guess what to be more clear, then I feel like heaven is a state of being. It's and it's not to mean like, oh, it's a blissful, like I have, you know, I go through things too, but I have faith that I'm doing my very best to making the most out of what I got, that life has given me, God has given me, uh, and to me that it you know, to me that is the greatest thing to follow. And when I don't follow those things, I feel like I'm in hell, like straight up. And so I don't know if there's something after I die. To me, that doesn't matter. To me, is that I'm serving life right now, and that still doesn't, like, even with that perspective, it doesn't really make a stance on afterlife or not. It's just I'm not seeking to define that. So
Okay.
yeah.
So that makes sense to me too. So it's overall the experience itself, the day to day that's kind of where you're kind of coinciding with the heaven or hell kind of approach. And that's kind of what's allowing you to kind of guide your actions and, you know, how you become the person that you are today and how you've grown from the person that you were yesterday. That's my interpretation of it. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Phil?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because even with me being agnostic, I still don't know what happens next too. I'm kind of open to all theoretical outcomes. Like there could be heaven or hell, there can be reincarnation, there can be ghosts. We can just be sitting in the ground chilling. It's like I'm open to all of those because, and I guess this kind of goes more into like why like I'm more spiritual than religious too, is because you know we don't know for sure until it's over. It's till our time is done, and then even at that point, how can we relay that information to the living? You know, historically there has been individuals who claim to have like near-death experiences. They would witness angels, they would experience heaven or hell for a little bit, come back and speak upon it. But, you know, we would only have to go with their word at that point, you know? So, and there's nothing wrong with having some sort of predestination after, you know, we pass. But I'm just saying from my perspective that if I can't speak on it conclusively, then I can't give 100% of my support to it.
Just got off the clock, just got on my chill. Called up my homie Brent to see what be the deal. What you trying to do? I'm just trying to heal. Hella floated, never bloated's what I'm trying to feel. Hop in the whip and